good afternoon to all the participants. Thank you so much for joining with us for this eighth The Wire session. All the librarians, researchers, and everyone from the knowledge and research fraternity, thank you so much for joining us once again. I am Dr. Shriparna Samanta, working as a manager, relationship, academics, and corporate with team Balani Infotech. The Wire, which is Webinar or International Resources and Expert, is a series of webinar which is the initiative by our CEO and visionary, Mr. Kailash Balani. We at Balani Infotech are serving the knowledge and research fraternity with the resources of their need from many past decades and as a service provider to this community as a social, ethical, and moral duty towards all of them. We thought of doing something more. So, taking this thought a step forward, we have created this platform, The Wire. Over this platform, we call different experts from different fields and try to provide valuable information for a much more broader audience. This will be our eighth The Wire session. Previous to this, we have conducted sessions on importance of archival contents, library transition during this pandemic situation, and on many other topics. So, on behalf of Balani Infotech, I welcome you all for this very informative webinar on the topic online news content, an integral part of research and library e-resources. Before starting our today's session, I would like to mention some of the ground rules. If anybody drops out of the session, then please join us back on the same link. After the talk, we will be opening our chat box for question and answer section with our panelists. So where participants will be able to ask their questions. And the most exciting part of our session, that is the quiz part, will be coming after the section where all the panelists will have done the discussion. So then we will be sharing the link of the Google form where participants will be able to fill their details and they will be able to see the questions, and we will be releasing the e-certificates that will be provided to all the participants within 15 working days after this whole session. So for today's session, we have with us our keynote speaker, Dr. Usha Muju Munshi ma'am, Chief Librarian at Indian International Center, IIC, New Delhi. We have our guest speaker, Neil. He is currently Vice President of International Markets at Newsbank. Our panelists for today's discussion are from across the country and they all are expert in their respective field. Today we have with us Dr. TRB Sarma sir, University Librarian, Shiv Nadar University, Greater Noida; Dr. Pranav Jyoti Das, Senior Scientist, Animal Genetics and Breeding, ICAR National Research Center on Pig from Assam; Dr. Seema Vashisht, Senior Librarian, Punjab Engineering College, Punjab; Dr. Jivesh Bansal sir, Librarian, AC Joshi Library, Punjab University. So nowadays, we all know how impactful news it is. It plays a very vital role in our day-to-day life. At the very onset in India of news channel, when there were no news channel, Doordarshan was the only oldest news channel that we had. But in due course of time, we all have seen how these news channels have evolved, and hence today we have this countless of this news channel. So this shows how important news content is. Now, without wasting much of the time, I would like to introduce Dr. Usha Munshi ma'am. Though she's a very well-known personality and she needs no introduction, still I would like to give a brief intro about her. Dr. Usha Munshi ma'am is a Fulbright scholar. Currently, she is working with India International Center, IIC. Prior to joining IIC, she has served as at many prestigious organizations like INSTOC, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, New Delhi, Indian National Science Academy, New Delhi, Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, and Institute of Public Administration, that is IIPA. She has over 100 research and conference publications and a few books to her credit, besides a number of other publications. Her publication includes Multimedia Information Extraction and Digital Heritage Preservation, brought out by World Scientific, which is a detailed and distinctive anthology on various facets of research issues in the area contributed by world experts. She is the recipient of several national and international awards that includes Raizada Memorial Award 1994 for Young Information Scientist of the Society of Information Science, SIS. SIS Fellowship in 1999, Fulbright Scholar in 1996-1997, International Best Paper Award by Assist USA in 2002, and many more. The list is too long. Dr. Munshi has organized over 50 national and international conferences that include one on big and open data, evolving data science standards, and citation attribution practices held at INSA, New Delhi. She has substantially contributed to manpower development and organized a large number of training programs on various themes. She has organized a number of capacity building programs at IIPA for civil servants, S&T personnel, and many corporate sector at national level. So now I would like to invite Dr. Usha Munshi ma'am to take over our virtual podium for her keynote.
Thank you very much. Good evening, dear fellow speakers and the participants. It is indeed a privilege and honor for me to be the part of this WIRE event. Well, I was asked to talk about the news content, and I'm going to speak that from the perspective of the libraries. And let me share the screen with you. Mm, uh, okay, yeah. So, share. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
It's visible?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Now, as was the task was assigned to me, and I was asked to talk about the news content resources, and I thought I'll just share something, which is the news contents that are decisive exam to library resources and also to the academic research. Now, there's an interest increasingly digital mobile and social media environment that gives users access to more and more information and also provides facilities them the increased opportunities to use diverse resources. As was just now said in the introduction, that we have very multivariate news channels now. So that has added another dimension to this. Now, coupled with this, information, closer information, or I call it information obesity, because there's a lot of information which we are unable to see through and get pertinent information. Now, coupled with these information explosion, there are developments in online access. There are huge plethora of sophisticated devices, and that facilitate the participation, new forms of participation, and there people are increasingly engaging on the basis of their interest, and those who are interested in news, it provides them new opportunities, and they get to share, comment on news, and whether others are a little passive on this side. Now, my presentation agenda is, this is what my presentation agenda is, that I'm going to talk about, since we are going to talk about evidential online news content, and I'll touch on different contours of this, which is news as a source, types of the sources, and when does news become helpful and when it is of limited use, how to use news effectively, and why people use, and what is, a question, don't ask, why is reading the news important? And of course, some behavioral aspects of the users about the news content and what libraries can do or are doing. And then I will give based on my personal experience, some typical examples before I wrap up my presentation. Now, coming to the news as a source, this news, there are two theories of this news. One is the transmission theory, and another is, the ritual and cultural theory. But in either of these theories, what defines this news, it is if you just look at the one, the transmission theory, which talks about the current and fresh knowledge about an event or subject that is gathered, processed, and disseminated. Or you talk about the ritual or the cultural theory. It's a news where news is a symbolic representation where the reality is produced. But in either of these cases, this is very important aspect. Kind of news is as it is very important. Now, if you just look another parameter of this, which says that how many people will be affected by such events. And I'll tell you what, there's a very important and interesting story that we happen to see on the, these news channels in the evening, particularly the evening slots. It talks about, something which is timeliness of the news is very important. The proximity where the news has, the event has happened is very important to some. But there is also, there's a bizarre kind of news that is actually making sensations these days. For instance, hypothetically, if we say that the dog has bitten a person, man, which is very common. But if I say the man bites a dog, it becomes sensational news. That's also news. There are, of course, consequences, that stories that used to break out about science and, new inventions in science has been replaced by murders and scandals and all. But that part apart, the news still has lot of potentiality for the academic or the research content. Now, because why I say that, because this news sources, they can provide insight that scholarly sources may not. And I'll give you, when I talk about the typical examples, I'll just talk about that also, that, because in the scholarly resources, this news, this bit of information, this piece of information will get reflected in a, sometime it will take some time, but for instance, news sources are excellent for finding out people's reactions, opinions, prevailing attitudes, and things like that. Therefore, whether or not, this particular news event is good for your assignment is basically depends on what type of research question you have in mind. Now, it's kind of strange term, because even when the information is old, it's still news, and some sources are great for breaking news, some are for aggregator or compiled news, or some are important for the historical news. Now, having said this, there is another component. What is the type of these news content sources, so far as the libraries are concerned? Now, we have seen that there are press services. This could be news outlets, print, broadcast, and online. They get a lot of their news from these services, such as Reuters, Associated Press, and things like that. There are news aggregators. Aggregators don't have kind of their own reporters, but they aggregate the news, like Google News, Yahoo News, a few examples. Newspaper sites, many newspapers have their own sites where, they have the archives as well, but it depends on how much they provide you for the free. Now, news databases is very important component here, because this they make search current, recent, and historical content in databases available by libraries to the many users. For instance, you can have Nexus Academic that contains news back to 1980 from newspapers, broadcast transcripts, wide services, blogs, and more. And there is ProQuest historical newspaper, which contains older content from several major US newspapers. Now, there are also broadcast news sites, when we look at this, although these news sites, from radio and television are generally consumed in real time, but such organizations also offer archives of news stories on their websites. And broadcast news sites give you from there you get a quick update on the world's major news stories. Now, another is the social media, and most of the news, outlets that I indicated about here, they contribute to Twitter and Facebook, and it is customary for highly condensed announcements in this venue to lead back to the news outlet website for more information. But however, we have seen the recent past that how credible these tech companies such as Facebook, Twitter, or Google are, because we've seen recently on Twitter how they kind of gave the, how they mapped one of the regions of India in as part of the map of another country. So that's a debatable question. Now, nevertheless, these do provide information. Now, blogs is a very, very important media. Sometimes these are very, very good sources for breaking news as well as commentary on current events and scholarship. Authors who write more objectively elsewhere can share more insights and opinions, more initial questions and findings about a study before they are ready to release definitive data and conclusions about their research. Now, coming to the other form of news content is the citizen journalism. Many people, you have seen that they become authors on the fly. They kind of give create sites to to those members of the general public who want to report breaking news and submit their own photos and videos on a wide range. And these are called citizen journalism. And of course, examples of such sources include CNN iReport and Reddit kind of things, Now, the most important is the news feeds, and that we quite often kind of entertain on the library web portals is, you can get updates on specific topics or a list of major headlines regularly that are being sent to you, and you don't have to visit sites or hunt for news content on a topic. Now, there are a number of contours to this. There are a number of segments to this news feeds. You can have RSS feeds, news feeds, alerting services. This was very popular when I was in my previous organization, where I started this book alerts, article alerts, and news alerts. This was they were users were actually looking forward to this. And I can go to the extent and say that even people who were appearing for the competitive exams or the Indian administrative services are a great, this is a great favorite resource base to them. This is the news content. Then you can see is the validity and veracity of this kind of information that I was providing at my previous organization. And of course, table of content alerts, many of us do that. Now, coming to the next, kind of this, there can be instances when when we say that which sources are useful, helpful, and which are of limited use. For instance, you say there is, the sources that are most of the time helpful to you is these news content sources when you need breaking news or historical perspective on a topic, when you want to know that what people were saying at the time that this news broke out, and you when you want to need to learn more about a culture, place, or time, or time period from its own resources, and when you want to keep up with what is going on in the world today. Now, when these news sources are of limited use could be then when you need a detailed analysis by experts, or you need sources that must be scholarly or more modern or contemporary, that can include contemporary views on a historical topic. It becomes little of limited use at that point in time. But nevertheless, in both the situations, they are useful. In one case, it's more useful. In another case, it has got a limited use. Now, coming to how do we use news effectively is there are mainline and non-mainline news resources. When we talk about the mainline resources, these are news outlets actually, so that they stick with the tradition of trying to report the news as objectively as possible. But I'm not saying that doesn't mean that their reports are perfectly objective, but they are more objective than the non-mainline resources. As a result, these resources, mainline resources, are more credible than their counterparts, that is the non-mainline resources. Now, examples of this could be your Times of India, Washington Post, the Chicago Tribune, or whatever. And the non-mainline resources that I talk about is that they are often mixed with opinions. When we is that they frequently exhibit a bias sometimes, and examples could be Fox News, Gawker, Reddit, or whatever in that, something in that category. Now, that brings me to the next source, that these news content resources could be both primary or secondary source. When I talk about how they could be of primary or secondary nature, when we talk about the news content, it can provide a useful source of information, serving as a primary source of information because about historical and current events. And for instance, if you just have a look here, you can, if you want to see how people viewed an event when it happened, it's a primary source at that point in time. Or you provide when you need to provide multiple points of view about an issue, including a comparison of a given country with the international view, or you are permitting researchers to trace the historical development of subjects over time, or you are examining issues in the context of that time by seeing how stories about an issue relate to other stories, or by examining the type of coverage provided. Now, giving you are also, when you are trying to give a snapshot of time period detailing how people lived, what they purchased, which is helpful for writers, playwrights, historians, scholars, and things like that. Because now that makes it a primary source of information, this news content. But when it becomes a secondary source, it is, because newspaper content also contains commentaries or retrospective articles about events, they can serve in such cases as the secondary source. Now, but whether it is you are using it as a primary or a secondary source, news content can provide a valuable research tool for the researchers. Now, therefore, that brings us to a second, in the next parameter, which is, why people read, and they read because they want to inform the audience about that. They want to, get educated. They want to guide maybe themselves or to some other people. They really want to know what is happening around the world. They want to interpret facts and news, and they want to form, opinions. It's also a source of entertainment. Actually, the news could also be a source of entertainment, because there is sometimes we see the gossip, and some of us may really be, kind of getting entertained with that kind of gossip. And of course, it also helps in forming opinions, spreading awareness, and at times advertising, because at times it happens many news channels show one thing in a repetitive mode. Therefore, it's easy to understand that it's an advertisement. Or many times there are messages conveyed which are of public service and for public awareness, such as the message on family planning or blood donation, or even the COVID times. So many guidelines and advisories were coming through these advertisements, which are very, very helpful and useful for the society at large. Now, having said that, therefore, when we say don't ask why is reading is important, it is really, really so important, because I'm just going to give a gist of what I said earlier. It's, it keeps you and me informed. It is more, involved. You and me get more involved, become more involved citizens within our community. It allows you and me to spread knowledge, and most importantly, from the academic point of view, news keeps us up to date on projects that could impact you and your research. Now, you realize the wide-scale impact of, what is called impact of specific issues here. Now, when I say the about the academic point of view, I say, when you gather pieces of information, that these small hubs of information, when you join these dots together, they prepare, and that prepares and makes you ready for what will happen to your community with all your research. So it's a very, very important contour for your research. Now, coming to the user habits and behavior, here I would like to say a few things. you know uh, uh, thus before coming to this, I would like to say that the news is one of the few things you will always need, no matter you are young, old, or whatever. So awareness basically is very key to social change, and the news provides you with that. In a political age, where your beliefs will continuously be challenged, it's important to keep track of what's happening in your community. So therefore, you need to be in touch with the news content, be aware of what's happening in your ecosystem, so that you can help those that aren't or don't have even know where to begin. So that's your very, very important from the librarian's point of view. Now, coming to the user habits, or how you can form the news habits. This formation of news habits among university students in this in internet environment, I will just make few points here. One is that the extremely varied media environment. We are seeing that we are all sorts of media have cropped up that now confronts the news consumer, might be thought to stimulate active selection of news sources more than ever, simply by virtue of presenting so many choices, most of which are accessible all the time of the day and night, 24/7. Now, there is a new theory, and this is actually evidence-based. There's an empirical study which says a new theory of media attendance that has been proposed that suggests exactly the opposite of what I said earlier. It says that when confronted by myriad of media choices, the consumer lapses into habitual patterns of media consumption in order to conserve mental resources rather than repeatedly engaging in active selection. And this is not my theory. This is based on an actually 3 empirical studies. Now, role of habit in media usage model proposes that active selection processes of sort assumed by users and gratification researchers operate primarily in the early stages of media selection. Therefore, if we have to kind of make this as a important part of the library sources, the librarian has to get first convinced how I'm going to help, how I'm going to change the news, formation of news habits among the users that come to my library. Now, this is precisely, I think this was true to great extent. If you happen to see the news channels that we watch in the evening, most of us, I know in India, we do watch some news channels in the evening, and the news, there may be good content in some other channel, but the news channel that I get hooked to every day, it's my mental cognitive model that accepts that channel as a routine. I just go straight away to that channel. So that's true. That's what I said when I said role of habit in media usage behavior model that proposes that it is early stages of media selection, what works on the cognitive models of the researchers. Now, coming to how libraries are geared to facilitate the evidential news content is, many libraries provide pointers. Typical examples are they give trending searches to host of such resources. And I'm just saying that what is that content is, maybe alumni news, athletic news, faculty experts, news and information. They also talk about the institution today, current message about the institution, recent press releases or research news, student affairs, technology news, university news. And all this is very, very important besides the RSS feeds and news and article and book alerts and things like that. Now, here I would like to give few typical examples. Now, what is happening here is, this is based on my own this thing. During the public health pandemic, to keep this scholarly landscape moving, many stakeholders chipped in to sustain this ecosystem. And how? I'm going to give you on the base of my personal experience that I experienced from April onwards till September or October of this year. Now, there were available information while students were off campus regarding, for the research scholars, the research resources, and research activity.
Hello, ma'am. We lost your audio. Hello, Usha, ma'am.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Actually, host had muted me. So it says host has muted you. Okay. So when we are talking about, say, for instance, there were special offers by the publishers regarding resources available, the deals, kind of deals. I don't want to use the word deals, but I'm using it here. Avenues to foster, there were actually avenues to foster scholarly research landscape with publishers, open access or article processing charge waiver, where the article processing charge was to the tune of $1,500, which is huge amount so far as the Indian researcher is concerned. And that was waiver of that was also, that information was available. And some of the institutions have floated this news content onto their web portals. And I know, and even we have done on our web portal. Of course, we don't have that kind of researchers here, but our 70% of the people, they do research and they write books and articles and things like that, but we are not that young kind of research community in my organization. Now, how libraries have become the conduit, as I said, that they have floated this information on their web portals. And if that was not facilitated using the, kind of online media, perhaps the students or the scholars would have been debarred from publishing into these open access journals, where they didn't have to pay. Their research content should have been rich in its content, but they didn't have to pay anything. They could have published it for free. And I have a good example of this. Now, other typical examples, or before I said talk about, I have seen some of the researchers who came to me, not from my own organization, that how do we go about it? How do we give this consent? How do we sign this form and things like that? Because that information was not available. And I shared with them in my personal blogs with these scholars also. Now,
Usha,
there are
ma'am,
other, yes.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I would like you to be a bit faster. Or
Yeah, I have just another 2 minutes maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So other typical examples are list forum digest. If many of you who are hooked to this list forum digest, it's also news content. Recently, you have seen that I wouldn't have gotten, information about this gentleman, which is called Enki Goda, who has collected over last 50 years over 1.06 million books and journals, and he's spending every month from his pensionary benefits he's spending on purchasing new books. He's based out of Karnataka. So I wouldn't have seen, I saw the video and I was so fascinated to write him that how did he manage all this. He's got a huge 1.06 million collection he has collected over the last 50 years. So this is also information. Maybe these resources could be of historical value to the researchers in the history section or the social science section. So how do you come to know about this? So this news content is through that. Now there are direct story, for instance, I get in my inbox, it gets dropped every day, direct stories from Economic Times, and it says, it is your daily dose of hand-baked stories. It gets dropped. And I have seen that most of the stories were so important and so contemporary in nature, that I really needed such information or my users needed such information. And some of us have registered on sites where you can get an important news resource for the library users, and that we have been doing during the COVID. And blogs, how useful such resources, news resources can be for your emerging areas. And I will give you a quick one example, that one of the guys whom I know very closely, he's a young researcher, budding researcher, and he wanted to write something because he wanted to use this COVID time where he was staying at home and he was not going for his to the organization where he's doing research. So he said that he thought that he will create a something which is of current importance. So he was working in the food tech startup sector. So he said, what are these food tech startup sectors doing? So how could he get this during the public health pandemic? So he got this information from the blogs, and this would not have been reflected in the scholarly resources because it is happening now and right away. So he collected, and in his research methodology, he wrote this. His article was really appreciated by the publisher. He has sent it to an international journal. It got published also. And within 2 months, it got published, and without any article processing charges. So that is the beauty of the news content. He didn't, there were no traditional research resources available in that sector at the point in time. So there's an importance of that. And finally, I would like to come to my last slide, that it is important, as said, the pen is mightier than the sword. This is every single one of news content resources are a powerful medium in their own individual wise. And they may be news about gossip and things like that, but at the core, they are important example of the library resources. And through mediation, news content can become all the more vital as a resource. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Usha ma'am. Thank you so much for your valuable inputs. The very interesting term that I found in your presentation was the information obesity. So that was actually a very interesting term. And the information that you have given regarding the news sources, all kind of news sources, and how at times the social media can mislead for the news that you are getting into, and how news help to create our opinion, how news plays a very important role in terms of opinion formation. So these all are very important topics on which you focused, and you told us about all the things. So a very thank you so much. So now moving ahead, I would like to invite our guest speaker, Neil from Newsbank, to deliver his talk on the importance of news content and what all Newsbank is there to offer. Neil is currently Vice President of International Markets at Newsbank, Newsbank based in Naples, Florida in the USA. It offers a global resource collection that supports all academic disciplines. Neil has extensive experience in the international sales arena, having led several educational publication operations in primary, secondary, and higher education. Neil's experience and specialty has been in developing and implementing strategies to enable educational institutions to acquire digital resources to complement and support their educational goals. Neil, over to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Shripala. I'm going to share my screen if I can. Do you need to give me control? There we go.
You have to give him the screen share this thing.
Yeah.
I have exited from the screen share. Yeah, I thought that you won't be able to. Now you can share screen. Yeah.
Fantastic.
You are co-host, I think.
Okay, fantastic. Let me see here. Share screen.
So,
Okie dokie. How is
okay.
that? Can everybody
Yes.
see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
are able to see it.
Excellent. Let me present here. Okie dokie, fantastic. Thank you, Shipana, and indeed a tough bill to follow from Dr. Usha Mujamunshi. I really found that fascinating, and I think this is the perfect forum to discuss certainly the current news arena, but certainly from the academic point of view, looking at global research, a global research collection that supports all academic disciplines. My name is Neil Doherty. I'm the Vice President of International Markets here at Newsbank. I'm from Ireland. You may hear that from my accent, and I've been living here in the States the last 3 years. So it's so far so good. But I wish I was in person with you all in India. I visited India many times, and I look forward to coming back and visiting your campuses, respective campuses, in the future. Hopefully, when this COVID era passes, we can all do this in person. So I look forward to that day. Thank you for your time. I know it's precious these days, and we're all very, very busy. So thank you for your time today to visit and attend this wire session. What I'd like to cover today is give you a sense and an introduction to who Newsbank are, but also give you an introduction to Access Global Newsbank. And as I mentioned, this is a global research collection that supports all academic disciplines. So Newsbank, just to give you a little bit of context, Newsbank is, we have two divisions. One is Newsbank and the other is Readex. The one way of considering Newsbank is it's a provider of current news sources and archives, and this is from multiple sources. So not just newspapers, we have journals, magazines, periodicals, web content and video content. And from the Readex point of view, we have historical content going back to the 1700s. So I'll give you a quick taste of that towards the end. But from a Newsbank perspective, the company was founded in 1974, and we have sources from all across the world, from I think it's over 200 countries, and they're updated daily going back to the 1980s. And this is right up to today and current daily news from over 13,000 current sources. And as I mentioned, they're from a wide array of different types. So full text, image editions from all the newspaper titles, and this is sold on an annual subscription basis. And as I mentioned, Readex is provides a family of collections of historical documents and newspapers, and these have all been digitized and available through our online search platforms as well. So I'll give you a little taste of that towards the end too. So Access Global Newsbank, this is the largest repository of news available in the world right today. Dr. Usha Mujamunshi did mention a number of different sources, namely LexisNexis and ProQuest. However, Access Global Newsbank offers a far deeper and more breadth in terms of global sources, but also offers, in addition, a lot more sources in terms of types of news. So newspapers, video, journals, etc. So much richer research experience. We've recently done a lot of research and development, and we've enhanced our interface to make it more easy to use for researchers and students alike. We have full text and actually over 200 titles that are available in image edition right now as well through this interface. The updates are daily and weekly according to the publication, and we have these live feeds coming into our platform daily and are updated daily. And as I mentioned, multiple news sources, so newspapers, blogs, newswires, web editions, etc. And I'll give you a quick demonstration, but this is searchable by keyword, publication date, country, more, news type, etc. So a really fantastic tool for researchers who are doing specific research, and they can explore various trends and really get into the nitty-gritty. So as I mentioned, the sources are available in multiple formats in one interface. We call this the integrated collection. So you're not just searching for one newspaper. You actually have the ability to search for your specific search term, but you're searching across multiple sources. So newspapers, they do publish web sources. There's blogs that are being published daily. So with this integrated collection, you have the ability to search across multiple formats in one interface. So it's quite powerful. So here's a quick look at our interface. As you can see, it's very much like a Google search. It's very easy to use. It's intuitive. It's available for remote access, which is very powerful these days, as a lot of people are working remotely and studying remotely. It's easy to use, and as I mentioned, it has a deep and wide breadth of sources available. So a quick look. It is possible to search through our map search here, and as I said, I will give you a taste of how the interface works. But as you can see here, as we look at the map search, we can see from all of the various continents the number of different news sources that are available from right across the world. And they are listed here. And then as we look a little bit more closely at your part of the world, we can see here that India has 485 sources of news. So if you are doing a particular or specific search, you can refine your search by location and refine that search as you move forward. So to give you a quick look at what a search would look like. So in this screenshot, I've done a search for COVID, and I did a specific search looking into India. So this was just yesterday. So here we can see that we've returned over 41,000 sources, and this was of COVID, and this was mentioned nearly 41,000 times since February 2020. So we can see here the trends from the Hindustan Times. It really peaked around February, March, April time, and as we can see, and thankfully it's moving away. So this is a good indicator of and a helpful tool as one does research. So here you can go into the actual full text of the article, and as you can see, the keyword that we searched here is highlighted. Within the article and within our platform, there's a number of different tools which are very helpful for researchers and students. There is, of course, the accessible tool here, which will help visually impaired researchers have a better view of the content. We have a citation tool, which allows, I know when I was in university, I always got my Harvard referencing, it referenced things incorrectly. So having this tool here helps the student simply cut and paste the correct citation and paste that into their academic paper. It is possible to email to fellow researchers or students. It's possible to print. You can download it, and indeed you can save it to your file. But as well, the researcher has the ability to copy a link and search and share this. And this sharing of link can be shared outside of the academic institute. So other users don't necessarily need to have a subscription if particular academics wish to share this particular article. So what I'd like to jump to, if possible, is to jump to a quick demonstration, if I can. And I do hope I'm able to get this view into your, let me see here. Are you able to see my screen, the interface?
Yes, Neil, we are able to see it.
Fantastic, excellent.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to double check that. There we go. Fantastic. So, let's do a quick search. So, for example, the presidential elections is a big topic, certainly in the United States, and I'm sure you've heard about it in India. It's certainly a topical one. So we'll do a quick search and for presidential, for example. And as you can see here, there is over, almost 10 million results from a wide array of 200 countries, 13,000 sources. So if you can imagine somebody, a student, for example, doing research on the 2020 US presidential election, they can refine their search by looking at the years. So we can see here we have content going back to 1900, but we'll refine the search to 2020. So we'll just apply that, and we can refine our search, and that will help us just narrow the search a little bit. So you can see here we've narrowed it down. So I want to look at 2020 only, and we can refine it here. Oops, there we go. There we go. So you can see that the search results are narrowing down. Now, if I'm doing particular research and I want to get the opinion of a particular country, I can do that by looking at the source location. So you can see here from our results, we have almost a million sources from, almost a million sources from right across North America. But I'm interested in the perspective of, let us say, I'm going to pick a European country here. So let us say the UK, for example. So England. So there's over 80,000 articles on presidential in England, for example. We can further refine the search by blog, journal, magazine, newspaper, newswire, or indeed we can do it by source name, which is all listed here as well. So quite a wide array of options in terms of the search needs. So I mentioned earlier the various citation tools and accessibility tools. So as I mentioned here, we have a number of different referencing tools here, Harvard referencing, for example, and the researcher can simply cut and paste their citation into their research paper. Just to give you a quick look at an image edition, I bring across here the Times of London, and this is available in image format. We have over 200 image editions available within the platform of Access Global Newsbank, and we find that a lot of use is generated through these particular sources on a daily basis. But from a research point of view, it is essential that to have access to not just the image edition, but also the full text and the web content. And indeed, as Dr. Usha Mujimunchi mentioned, it's important to have access to blogs as well. So to really get a true current view of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. So having access to a truly integrated collection and with the depth that Access Global Newsbank offers is a key tool for any academic institute to support a wide array of academic needs. So with that, I'll just pop back to my presentation here, and with that, I'll hand it back over to Shripana, and I would welcome any questions. Maybe towards the end we can do that. But thank you for your time this afternoon, and please reach out to your contacts at Balani Infotech, or indeed me, if you'd like to learn more about indeed Newsbank, or indeed Redex, which is our historical collection side of our business, where we offer a number of different collections from a wide array of academic primary source collections from a wide array of academic interests, just to name it a few right here. But with that, I'll hand you back to Shripana, and again, thank you for your time, And please reach out to me should you have any questions or indeed like to take a look at Access Global Newsbank for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, for giving us such a brief insight about the news bank and a brief demo about the news bank and joining us so early from your end. I know the timing is so early at your end, but still you joined us, and thank you for the great presentation. And it's actually great to know how Newsbank keep on updating the news data regularly with the help of content from newspaper, magazines, periodicals, and everything. And it's good to know that to provide their readers with the current news affair, that Newsbank keeps on updating their news data on daily and weekly basis as well. And most important part is that user can get the data in any format in which they are comfortable in: full text, infographics, images, PDF. And so yes, a very informative session by you. Thank you so much. So now moving forward, I would like to invite TRB Sarma sir. He is our next panelist. So he has around 30 years of experience in the field of library and information science. He has served in different government as well as private institutions and implemented several innovative schemes. He has started his career with the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Then he shifted to National Institute of Rural Development, NIRD, Ministry of Rural Development, again under Government of India, served for a period of 10 years over there. Later, he has worked as librarian in Institute for Social and Economic Changes, ISEC, and ICSSR research organization. During the period, he has conducted 2 national workshops on open source digital library system. At present, he is serving as a university founding librarian in Shiv Nadar University from 2011 onwards. So, Sarma sir, over to you. I invite you for your talk, please.
Thanks, Dr. Sapam Samantha. I am very much excited, especially the speech given by our beloved madam, Dr. Usha Mushi. And I observed very good points, very exhaustively. She has given a very good lecture on not only news, individual newspapers. I thought it is the news content, news databases, but she has given a very wonderful, exhaustive, in a broad way about the news and the news, even social medias, blogs, forms like everybody we are seeing every day, LIS forms, and other areas. And especially today, as a panelist, without discussing this, it is not good. It will not complete. About Mr. Neil's presentation, I am very much excited because recently I got this news bank facility as a trial version, and I started actually to see the facility and what are the futures it has. Yes, I have missed many things till I have seen the presentation of Dr. Neil. And really, after the completion of this meeting, I will again start. And even I have 1 or 2 doubts about this, whether this news bank gives the information about the live newspapers, number 1. Number 2, whether these some of the journals, magazines, it is covered, whether by any chance whether we can get full text or preview articles. I have seen there it is available only preview articles, and not, I feel full text it may not available. I think afterwards I can get the information from both Balani and Dr. Neil.
Yes, sir, definitely.
And definitely this is important thing, because I have, even I know that I have only 10 minutes time, and I'm going to give a small presentation. Madam, are you visible, madam? My
Yes, sir.
share screen.
Yes,
And
sir.
I don't want to go for much. I'm directly going to subject. And recently I have seen several things, frankly speaking, because of this presentation. What earlier I don't know many things regarding news and its importance. News means new plus S. That means latest. New means latest. S means information. Latest information. And news is information about current aspects, and it informs what is happening at present in the world. And this is the important thing. Anyhow, our madam has covered all many things as a professional librarian. And after here joining here in this university, especially because of this faculty and students, very much interesting on news content. So we started to use these, especially these special and selected items only I am showing to you. Financial Times, London, especially London edition, because of our MBA department. And Press Reader recently we got as a trial version. That also we searched and we used. Factiva, a little bit expensive news content. That also we checked, and we are going to take decision. And Maxstar, everybody knows. Newsbank, recently I got this trial version. We started, and we are also verifying this. And anyhow, madam clearly suggested this is a very good thing. ProQuest News Archives. Practically, we have subscribed and we got very good experience with this, because I am going to talk only the news content and importance in research works only. These are things practically we used, we implemented in our university library to forward every research student. That means those who are doing PhD under the research projects. And even earlier, our Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Subramaniam, early UP government secretary, chief secretary, he was our earlier Pro Vice Chancellor. And he has utilized this ProQuest News Archives for his some research project. In this aspect, we used all these news content databases for our research as research facilities. And I found because of these experiences and of my colleagues and research scholars, I came to understand some of the practical points that are important for I want to share my members. One is the source of information for scientific research work, whether it belongs social sciences or science and technology. When we do a scientific research, this is the source. Without this source, without news content information, the research may not go. Because I found recently, University of Gutenberg, they have conducted a research study, a survey. In that survey, they found whoever, the scientist or research scholar, even the academician, who reads, who refer newspapers at least once in a 3 days, once in a, otherwise once in a 2 days, he is the only confident person to do his research, to, to give lectures or to conduct his research studies. That means even if we ourselves, without accessing at least either newspapers or news databases or at least news channels, at least once in a 2 days, that is we feel confidence we can talk anything next day events, even in our faculty meetings, etc. And second thing, I'm interested in user behavior research works. Madam has covered this thing. Behavior, many people nowadays doing research on behavioral sciences and behavior, user behavior, everything, like library, readers and students, everybody, business people, community, everywhere, wherever you go. When you do the behavioral research work, the news content is very, very important. And then, another thing, promotes the field of research, improves the confidence levels and promotes the field of research. The we whatever the field we select, it promotes us doing research in an effective fashion. Only the news has that much power. And in a practical way that I am interested to say, disseminate the public fund research results effectively to the common man. Everybody knows the social media, and at present the journalist media, everybody, everything, it helps to disseminate the research results which have been done with the funds of public. It effectively transmits that research results to the common man. Without that, it won't go. It won't give any effective results. Next one, increasing the impact of research. Published in local newspapers towards increasing the citations. Everybody knows. Even though the journal article published in a top level, top score impact journal, until unless it publishes, it gives little bit that means publicity in local newspaper or national newspapers, that citations won't increase. Everybody knows. Even our library science, many journal articles become very famous after giving a small communication in newspapers we found afterwards. That is the thing. And this is the new, and increasing the scientific article altmetric score. Altmetric score means nothing but the readers, the general public, whoever, the capacity of their downloads, citations, and talked about are referred outside of the traditional channels. Publicity, in one word, we can call that is the publicity. Publicity means altmetric score. That particular, either it goes to author or the article. This helps without, this helps a very good way for newspapers and other journalism media. Without that, it is very difficult to publicize this particular article and its importance to go common public. And anyhow, the last but not least, it is one, funding, supporting for future research. Whoever doing research on a particular topic, without going this information to topmost funding organizations, it is not possible to get further funds for continuing their research in this regard. And day-to-day online news data are essential. Both, either I'm not confined with only humanities and science and technology, because as I belongs to university person, I found, I have experience on these following lines, on following areas. The news bank, news content is very much related for doing their day-to-day research. Number one is the under social sciences, one is the political science. Political science means it changes this results, the political leadership, everything it changes day to day. For those who are doing research in political science, the news content is very much essential. Second one, entertainment. You know everything. But every day, the entertainment channels, entertainment news, entertainment person, entertainment field, everything it changes. Those who are doing research in entertainment, that important. That is this news content, latest, updated news channels information is important. And media, everybody knows media. And especially now, we have very great experience for this business marketing and stock marketing. As we have School of Entrepreneurship is there, that means those that school is dealing MBA. There we require like London, sorry, Financial Times from London edition. It is important to us. Without that, they are not doing any research in business and marketing and stock marketing, etc. Literature also, the latest news regarding literature, it is important. And history archive also, this news role is very much effective. And science and technology, it's everywhere. Everybody knows medical sciences, latest everything like COVID, our developments, its virus and its development, everything we require for latest news for doing anything. And pharmaceuticals, weather, climate, updated information, space, defense, and science and technology, life sciences. All these fields, without news content, without news information, latest updated information, it is very difficult to go further. That means all these fields research, news content is very much helpful. And finally, I want to say even we, our students, our researchers, even though now in online uh, digital age, like okay, in earlier print version, many problems are there for newspapers, news thing, for getting, collecting, keeping everything. But even though now in a digital era, we are facing very small limitations. This little time consuming work, but that also I can avoid because like news bank, as I have seen now, and other databases that came in a very good database in a packed information, this limitation also we can overgo for this type of time consuming work. It helps us a lot. It looks, I have to check now this news bank thing, and I have seen very good options are there. And last one, all needed newspapers are not available at one place. Yes, because of except until unless we use this international databases, news content databases, it is very difficult to us to access the newspapers which are being published in different countries, different states. So we can see, but even though this newspaper news content databases, one news bank, one news database covers some selected newspapers and magazines, and one more this one data bank covers some more newspapers and some more magazines. So that is we feel very little bit difficult, and we are looking for a effective aggregator to keep all the newspapers, especially the business related newspapers and magazines, to keep at one place to access and disseminate the information effectively to all our students as well as research community. And this is a very small presentation from my side regarding the importance of news content in the research of the both humanities, social sciences, as well as science and technology community. Thanks a lot for your listening.
Thank you so much, Sarma sir. How you told us like news is not only necessary for the political science people, but even from the entertainment research section, how that plays a very vital and important role. Because generally, whenever we talk about news and news content, people talk always about generally humanities and the political science, how it impacts for the business and management section
Yes.
as well. Yes, yes, that information was very much vital, and thank you for sharing your views on the news content, and it's important. So next, moving on further, I would now like to invite Dr. Pranav Jyoti Das, who is presently working as senior scientist animal genetics and breeding, ICAR National Research Center on pig in Assam. So as Sarma sir told how important during this time for the medical and for the COVID vaccine the news content can be. So Pranav sir will be speaking on something like that. He is passionate about learning science, accelerating innovation, and advancing discoveries as this constitute the building blocks to prevent, intervene, and finding gene responsible for different productive and reproductive diseases. He is an interdisciplinary researcher. He has over 12 years of experience in applying molecular biology that include population and conservation genetics, phylogenetics, evolutionary genomics, comparative genomics of domesticated animals, molecule cytogenic, physical and comparative gene mapping, disease genetics, molecular analysis of fertility, and many more. His highly productive scientific career includes 40 co-authored published manuscript, edited 2 books, 9 book chapters, and over 100 presentations in national and international conferences. After completing his PhD, he has done his postdoc from Texas A&M University and then worked as a postdoctoral research scientist in veterinary integrative biology. And he has awarded with many awards. So, awarded membership for American Association for the Advancement of Science, USA. He has registered first breed of yak by his name and received breed registration certificate. Uh, he has produced world first test tube calf of yak, part of research team to produce world first test tube yak calf named Noreg. I guess I pronounced it right, sir.
Right, right.
Yeah, and he is member of Veterinary Council of India, genome analysis technique in farm animals, cloning, characterization, in vitro expression of genes, identification of genetic marker for economic traits, DBT India, and advisory panel of journals like PLOS One, DNA barcoding journals, and many more. So, sir, over to you. I invite you to speak on the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ziprana. Thank you very much. I think all the panelists and speakers, I think I am odd man out here because all the like people having a good like knowledge about the information technology, and they're quite senior and respectable people at their own field. I think I am only from the background from the science, although I don't have much like experience e-resource and library management. But yeah, the topic content, yes, something is like related to everyone's. As I heard about like Dr. Munshi ma'am, she's told that primary sources, secondary sources, and the information of obesity, that also like striking my mind. That's right thing actually. So basically for science, particularly we're looking for the primary information because anything we need that has to be very much validated. That it cannot be like, anybody can write something in the like newspaper or blog or Facebook or any Twitter accounts, but we need any validation. That's why whenever we go for any hypothesis or anything research aspect, we go for the scientific full text journal, which is already pre-reviewed. So on basis on that only we go for the that only helpful for our researcher particularly. Yeah, some writings also helpful for us making some new hypotheses. And second thing, Neil has said that reliable source of information. That's exactly match with us. That's exactly Newsbank is doing, and that's a good one. That is demo. I like it actually. That's everything is coming in one platform, and that will not only helpful for one sector of the people, it's helpful for a whole like covering the science and technology, socials and everything. And Dr. Sharma, what he's mentioned that this is a science, not only social science, science and technology and other entertainment. We belongs to that science and technology, and our information actually we need the information very reliable primary information which has already validated. So going to my presentation, I'll just giving some example of just a minute.
Yes, sir, we are able to
Can you
see
can
your
you see
screen.
that?
Yes, sir, yes, sir. We are able to see your screen. Yeah.
So presents. Okay. So this is where I belongs to. I'm a scientist, a senior scientist here in ICR Institute. It's a big umbrella in the National Research Center and being one of that institute under this big umbrella. So I am just giving some photographs, just taking that no self required and computers based, everything is like now all the information is e-resource. Now the hard copies and other things are like hardly like even we don't much go to the library nowadays because we have all the information we can ready at our own computer and we can read articles and other things. But before going to that, first you need to see what is online contents. It's a fact or hoax. To understand that you have to be very careful and very means you have to search the data, you have to see the where from data has come, what is the source of the data. That's why I told that primary information and reliable information is very much important. So that need to be very carefully taken care of when you are taking a data. So second thing, I'm just talking about like if you go to the pandemic times of this coronavirus, then you can see once this coronavirus started, then more than this, like how people help and how people will get rid of it, more hawks needs are coming out. So even if human can pass COVID-19 to animals, shows research. That means it is a headlines in the national paper based on the some primary information. Those primary information was not also validated, so it's a fake news. So that fake news greatly affect on the like humanity, greatly affect the society. Then no coronavirus is cured by drinking boiled garlic water. This is also fake news. People started garlic water. So lots of fake news are coming in and around for the, yes, some news are, some are good, but you need a valid information. Then COVID-19, so what are, people are saying that because of like in pet animal also, like, pet also bearing that COVID virus, and people start leaving their pet animal in the street. People said milk and meat industry was like, it is affected like anything. It costs huge amount of money. People are saying that if you consume meat, then there will be coronavirus. So these are the information. It's coming from nowhere.
Hello.
Madam, his voice is not
Sir,
coming.
your Pranav sir, your voice is not audible.
And video also not visible, madam.
Yeah, the screen is stuck, I guess. Yeah.
Perhaps network problem is there.
No, no, it's frozen actually. It's frozen. Screen is frozen. So there's network problem actually.
हाँ उमेश इनका कुछ बंद हो गया क्या प्रणव सर का? Yeah, I'm just trying to connect with him. I'll just. Sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. He has muted himself.
Okay. I don't know how. Anyway,
Yeah.
Sorry for.
No, that's okay.
So yeah, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the pandemic. So it's a pandemic or epidemic, whatever it may be. So it started from the animal, domestic animals are, it's transmitted to the human. Most of the disease actually come from the animal to human. Those zoonotic diseases are very, very dangerous and very, it causes the endemic and it causes the pandemic. So UN published a report on relation to genetic disease and animals. So we need to understand from where this information is coming and who is the sole authority. Suppose World Health Organization is giving some information, suppose in Indian prospects of our government of India health organization giving some guidelines. Those things are reliable. It's not like everywhere you are putting some own content and putting like sharing all things in the social media, Twitter or other account. That will actually greatly hamper in the science, particularly science sector. Other social political sector also it hamper it, sometimes it causes the different fighting between the people also because of the false news and false news content. So come to the some important zoonotic diseases. I'm taking it because these zoonotic diseases are very much important in human society. So bovine tuberculosis, particularly in India, that causes like huge tuberculosis infection for the peoples. So some people are saying that this tuberculosis, if you are like taking the meat of the animal, if you are like taking the milk of the animal, this tuberculosis, yes, that's right. But pasteurized meat and other meat, if you have pasteurized milk, if you are taking, then it is you are safe from the tuberculosis. Kind of Q fever is there. So I'm giving an how Q fever is like say infected the people. So there is cycles. These cycles are like you have to take care of all the cycles to get rid of disease. Not only like that, suppose Q fever is coming, the disease is coming from the seed. So people started culling all the seed. People are not started taking the meat from the seed. It's not like that. First, you need to understand the what is the source and where we need to act. So you have to give them right information. So blood flu is there, then Nipah virus is there, swine flu, we are all know about the swine flu, MERS, the plague is there. So all this information, because these are diseases directly affecting the human. So suppose if you are giving a like 1% of misinformation about this disease, that will greatly affect the human society as well human beings. So you need a reliable sources for that. So bovine tuberculosis. So people die for bovine tuberculosis. You see, early in like 1920 and 1937, lots of people died. Still, we are India not free from the bovine tuberculosis. So we need to take care of that. And for bovine tuberculosis, if you are cull the animal, farmers will get the money out of it. And what farmer used to do then, once they get the news, the farmer used to do inject some diesel kind of things in their animal. So what happened? The tuberculosis test, when veterinarian do that, animal come to the positive and people get the money. So people don't understand what is the like what can happen with the bovine tuberculosis. You have to educate the people, not like the spreading the news that once you have animal is getting bovine tuberculosis, you will get the money. Then people started doing all the nonsense thing and criminal things. So that is happening. And coronavirus, we are still threat of bovine tuberculosis. People are also, this is also positive effect. Positive effect in the sense like bovine tuberculosis also spread for the aerosols. Like once coronavirus comes, the people used to regularly using the mask and everything. Even in the cow shed and other people are going with mask. So ultimately people are like they seal from the bovine tuberculosis due to corona. That's a positive effect. So these are the things like that. These are the news contents on the bovine tuberculosis. So we come to the bovine BSE, bovine spongiform encephalitis. This is called mad cow disease. Mad cow disease, how mad cow disease happen? It's England, UK, lots of people, lots of cow, hundreds of millions of cow, they have cull. And they are also disease transformed from the, from the meat to human, that it's a neurodegenerative disease because of one protein structure and cells. This is because not like, virus, this is some protein structure and only structural cells. I give you two figure here. This is the same protein on structural sense. Because of structural senses that mad cow diseases occur. So then Middle East SARS is there. This kind of viral diseases. I don't know details about that. Then plague also we are thinking that it is from the lice and fleas from the from the mouse, from the rats. But actually it spread to the human lice and human mouse that also come to the contact with the rat. So these are the right news for the right peoples. Then H1 swine flu. Swine flu, one swine flu. This is a picture in the beach. The swine flu, actually, how swine flu occurs. It's not only the swine is only not responsible for the swine flu. There are a number of hosts. Because people are given the swine flu is there, so stop eating the pork and you cull the pork. So that goes, if news goes that way, that will lose huge economic loss to the farmers, as well as it is not giving you the seal to that disease. You need to understand where the host is there, what is the primary root is there. So in case of science, so you need a validate information for all those things. And again, bird flu, every winter, it's a bird flu is coming. It's a huge economic loss. So rather than saying that don't eat don't eat chicken, then you need to educate the people. So you have to have the right information for that. And again, Nipah virus is there. So as I'm giving a cycle, how this Nipah virus contacted with the people. It's a natural host is the bat. Then it's come to the pig. Then if people ate the half-eaten fruits from the bat and from the direct contact with the pig, then Nipah virus will be infected the people, and people to people it will transmit it. So these are the very these are cycle for the virus. So before talking something about the Nipah virus, you need to understand what's going on there. So some information, you cannot write anything about the Nipah virus. Somebody can write, oh, Nipah virus, it's if you take the fruits, then it will be infected everybody. Then fruit market will go. But you have to make people understand how it infected. What's the cycle? Is it nothing? Science is there. It's a cycle is not normal. Anybody can understand that. So come to the one very important things, like very recently people are lab grown food already. Some company have been started, even Guwahati, IIT also, they have started doing that. But there are pros and cons for this one. Suppose if you are growing the meat in the lab, you don't need a space, you don't need that, your taste will be taken care of. Taste will be taken care of. But you have, when people will get the things in the lower price, then there will be obesity. People started much more than they needed. Then sustainability will be one problem, animal welfare will be problem, health will be their problem, and other thing is will be trust. So from where this meat has been come. It can lead to large unemployment across the globe also, because whole meat industry is a very like big enterprise all over the world. So once you started doing that in the laboratory, then there will be like unemployment issue. Then it can be produced some environmental damage too, because you need high temperature for producing all these things in the laboratories. And it does not completely eliminate the animal suffering also, because when you are producing meat, you need to take the muscles portion and you have to taste every animals. You have to do the biopsy and taking that things to the lab. So there will be sufferings also there. So eating habits are shifting from a natural produce to the artificial produce. That is also we are challenging the like whole system. So these are the some news, important news. But effect of fake news in economic correlation is the like mostly huge effect on our economy. Particularly, I'm just giving an example. The chicken sale is dropped 80% all over India after this pandemic started. People are saying if you are taking meat, and meat industry, particularly boiler industry, boiler chicken industry is huge industry. It's a 300 billion industry in India. So 80% loss. You can sell of eggs, sell of water, because these are the things because of a fake news. People are spreading those news that if you are taking those things, this may be spread. Coronavirus will be more. So you need to be very careful on those area, particularly that's spreading news. So any information coming, particularly news bank, they are starting this. So you have to be screen or filter those like fake news. So we have now one TV program is coming up, the DNA, like I think from every one newspaper. So you are giving some fake news and they are taking all these things. So kind of things like all the information you need to have like in the field, particularly for science and technology sector, you cannot afford to have like all the fake news. And just I'm giving an example of one just cycle. This is the cycle for, I am not giving you the name. This is the cycle for your Japanese encephalitis. Now it is coming the UP and Northern Bank. People are now started slaughtering pig. They are selling the pig or call the pig. They are seeing the people. Pig is the main source of information for Japanese. It's not like that. Japanese encephalitis can be happen because of the mosquito, because of the like poultry, because of the wild bird, and because of the rice paddy. If all these things come together, then you may get an infection from that mosquito. But only the culling was like pig will not all help you. Rather than it will be economic loss to the farmer. Maybe from the pig also it may be happen to the, but it's not direct like the pig. It's not direct to the like wild bird. It has to be complete the cycle. You need to break the cycle somewhere, then only get rid of it. So you need to have good information for those things. Then coming to the conclusion that we need a reliable scientific information. Before just I'm talking listening to the Neil, we need the reliable scientific information, best practice around the globe, and fighting disinformation. How will fighting disinformation? You need a very strong political regulatory environment. Until and unless people spreading the news, you cannot write anything. You cannot write anything in the Facebook. You cannot write anything in the Twitter until and unless you have a right information and right resources. Already government is also taking care of that. So you need to have a very strong political and regulatory environment for that. And news bank kind of things should come forward, giving support to the government that we are the platform, we are the people, you giving the right information. Then people will incline towards that. So those are the things that's where you will get the right information. And healthy discussion like that, this we need to have a webinar. I can see like lots of people joining here, 250 people are joining here. Kind of this information, this webinar will be very helpful. And that's all. And thank you very much. And I thanks all the my previous speaker, and also good luck for my other panelists, my colleague panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pranav sir. I think now we all will agree to the point that news plays an vital role in the research going on in every field, whether it's medical, in terms of pharma research or food industry. In every place, this news plays a very vital role, and obviously the myths that are hampering the scientific facts, and how the economic loss for the farmers is happening because of the myths or the fake news or the hoax that you told is actually, yes, very much interesting to know how news is affecting the every field in STM as well. So now to talk more on the importance of news content in terms of e-resources, I would like to invite our next panelist, Dr. Seema Vashisht ma'am. So Dr. Seema is presently working as senior librarian, Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh. She has over 25 years of professional experience as a librarian. She has completed her PhD in organizational and management of electronic journals. Dr. Vashist has contributed more than 45 articles and papers in various reputed professional, international, and national journals, and authored 2 books. She has participated in 4 international conferences and more than 25 national conferences, seminars, and workshops. She has guided 4 MILS dissertations. She has delivered more than 15 expert presentations and invited talks. A few area of her current reading and research interest includes management of electronic resources, automation of library, developing digital libraries and institutional repositories, and many more. So, Seema ma'am, over to you. Please join us.
Thanks, Sripanna. I hope I am audible.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, participants. I sincerely appreciate the effort done by Balani Infotech Private Limited for organizing today's webinar on the power of a special library resource, that is newspaper content. My appreciations and deepest thanks. Marvelous information has been shared by my fellow panelists, Dr. Sarna, Dr. Neil Dorothy, Dr. Das, and even Dr. Usha Munshi has given in-depth information indicating news content as an asset for the researchers. So I will not take much time and just touch upon the value of the news content in my opinion, and I will like to share my personal experience related to this. In academic pursuit, the availability and use of accurate and current information may determine success or failure. Newspapers are an excellent source for seeking reliable and timely information for research purposes. Newspapers are full of different kinds of information that can be used in many ways, for amusement or education, and also for scientific research. It is generally perceived that content available is less worthy than scientific journals and textbooks for any serious education or research purposes because of their sensationalistic character. Newspaper news may be sometimes very sensational, so to keep that content, they would like to have some gossip or some fake news. So it is very to check whether the news is of real value, we have to give it a credit. We have to cross-check the information. This may be true to a certain extent, but the news content is an excellent source of social and cultural value of a certain place and time, and often contain unique information which cannot be found anywhere else. To quote McMahon, he said in 2001 that newspaper is an inexpensive way to enhance classwork by providing the basics for studying different subjects from basic literacy to the highest level of the critical thinking. Newspapers carry information regarding all the happenings around the world from all the corners of the world. These also contain valuable information and news that is expected to not only inform, but also to build and develop knowledge database. When you are in a habit of reading newspaper, it helps you to generate more ideas related to your research and how it could be beneficial for your society and the general public. It is very clear from the presentation of Dr. Das that the news must be analyzed critically, keeping in view the overall agenda of the newspaper and the target audience. While analyzing newspaper article, it is also important to understand the importance of where the article appeared, that is whether it's a front page news or the last page news. From librarian's point of view, the problem associated with the news content are the problems of poor preservation and the maintenance. Transcription and digitization can help us to track this problem. Now I would like to share my personal experience with this news content. When I joined Peck Library about 25 years back, our seniors used to put on duty trainees and other library staff to scan one newspaper every day to look for the any news of Peck, for Peck, and related to Peck. The idea is to get any news relevant for the Peck fraternity. So earlier we used to read the print newspaper and select the news which we require for to share with our fraternity, get the photocopies and share the news content with our director, deans and all the faculty members. And when with the passage of time, when we get this scanning facilities, we used to scan the newspaper and share the content through the email. And also we used to maintain a copy of that content. We have developed up news content which is related to the PEC related news. We used to keep this database on the with the file name in a date-wise manner. So now, but we were doing this work, but sometimes the staff get very annoyed. Ma'am, this is a very time consuming and there is no appreciation. They used to take, we were subscribing to around 25 daily from all over India, and it's scanning all the newspaper, it's a time consuming. It would take us for about an hour to scan all the newspaper and send the news. So there was no appreciation, but it felt like there was no appreciation. But we used to keep our staff motivating, let's do it. There is nothing bad in that. And then during this pandemic time, when we stopped subscribing to the print form of the newspaper, and because to avoid this contact with the COVID virus, so we stopped sending the news. After 3 or 4 months, I get news, one email from our two deans rather. It's from the Dean Alumni and Dean Research. They said, ma'am, you were sharing the news related to PEC. These were very important. We were having a database of alumni that appears in the newspaper. So, and from that alumni database, we used to get in touch with them, and we used to get the research funding from them. Even this news content was helpful in creating industry academia interactions. So that was like a silver lining in the cloud. We were so much happy that we started scanning the online paper content and started sharing the news with all the faculty and deans once again. So my concern, rather humble request to all the professional information professional is to start creating and using news bank, which will provide information from trusted sources so as to ensure reliable and focused research results. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The short story, your personal experience of the PEC that you faced and how again you started scanning the newses. And it's very interesting to know like the alumni news can help to get the fundings. Where are the funding options are available and how alumni of that particular institute can help in that thing. That's actually a very interesting thing to know. Thank you so much. So moving forward, I would now like to invite our next panelist for today, Dr. Jivesh Bansal. Dr. Jivesh Bansal, sir, is presently University Librarian of Punjab University, Chandigarh from April 2019. He has more than 21 years of professional experience, including 19 years vast experience at Central Library of Punjab University. He was awarded PhD by Punjab University in 2013 for his doctoral research on information seeking behavior in electronic environment. Dr. Bansal has published more than 24 papers in national and international journals. He has attended a number of workshops, international and national, conferences in abroad and India as well, and served as a resource person in many of them. So Bansal sir, over to you. I would like to invite you, and over to you. Yeah, please.
Thank you, madam. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the Balani Infotech people for giving me chance to share my news on this topic. When Mr. Webber called me on this to give a talk on this topic, to be a panelist. The first thing which came in my mind with this online news content about the current sources of information which I have read and which I have subscribed in the library, like kissing record of word event, facts on file, Asian recorder, African diary, and many of them now are available in the digital format, online format, the like facts on file is now available as Word News Digest, and we are in this COVID-19 pandemic. We also have a trial subscription of this Word News Digest, and many people have used this also. And we are interested to have some kind of this newspaper, that online news content source in our library, because earlier also in print media we are subscribing a number of these digest services in our library. And all we know that currently we are living in this information age after passing through this agricultural and industrial age. There is a turbulent flow of information in this information revolutionary age. There is, you all know that information is coming from all the channels. There are news channels, there are social media channels, there are WhatsApp, there are many WhatsApp apps, there are so and so many, there is lot of information. And now for the, it is a, to handle such an information, this is, we can call that we are living in an information overload is that there is, everyone is feeling that there is a feeling of information obesity, or we call it information revolution, or we call it as information overload. And when we said that overload, it means it is in the negative term, that we are feeling stress due to information, because in our mind there is a limitation that how much information we can process at a time. And when that surpass, then we start frustration, and we start stressing, and we start, even we start adopting the misinformation as the information. And first of all, I just Dr. Jyoti Das have shared many things now about the fake news, about the misinformation. I will talk in the terms of the information professional, and which the terms informational professionals use in this sense, because there is one term is that misinformation, because misinformation is that which is a false information, but that is not intentional. Misinformation is that is a false information, but is not without the intention of giving the false information. It is by chance the person who is spreading it, he doesn't know that this is the false information. This is the, so another thing is disinformation or the fake news, which is intentionally spread it with a purpose. Now you all know that there is so much political bias in the newspaper channels, in the media. In the last few months, we have seen how for the TRPs, these newspaper channels are working. You all know about that today. This is a very common term, that the media houses, they are in the hands of the politicians, so and so forth. So such kind of things, when we say that, it means there is certain kind of biasness. And when the users which are using this information, they are also intentionally biased. Suppose I want to hear something, and that information comes in that manner only, that my biasness, and I will accept that misinformation or disinformation as the information, because my biasness is like, my biasness is there, that I want to hear that kind of information. And when my biasness, so such kind of things are there in the system. And when this disinformation, which is generally called as fake news in the library science or the information science, this is called as disinformation, and in the common terms it is called as the fake news. And you have heard in the COVID-19 times that garlic water is used for this, and how this news of HCQ, you have very much heard that the hydrochloroquine is useful for the treatment of this COVID-19, how it spread. And I also received a message from some of my relatives that you take some weekly dose of this HCQ. And I also, and then I consulted from some, because I am living in a city which is very, that is educational city, and then I am sitting at a very, in a university. So I consulted some doctor that is HCQ. I should take, there is no need to take HCQ. There is no any confirmatory that this can be the helpful to prevent the COVID-19. So, but the common man, when some relatives said to him, suppose some distant relative is a doctor, and the news go and reaches to him that HCQ, and there is a shortage of HCQ. And you all know that when Trump also requested to our prime minister that HCQ should be supplied, and he also, you all know about these things. This is the manner that these news online, these news spread into the media, and how they become the. I have now, when I have to speak on this topic, I have gone through certain. There is one report, that digital news report 2018, that is lying on the internet. You all can see that the move to distributed content via social media and aggregator has started reversing. The trend which has gone very high, that we are started accepting, which is moving on the social media as the news, which that's what the digital news report of 2018, that start reversing while subscriptions are increasing. The reliable sources of subscriptions and the reliable sources of news, online news channels are increasing day by day. Consumers' trust in news remains worrying low because of high level of media polarization. There is media is very polarized, that all you know about this American, that Fox channel is that devoted to Trump, and there are many channels which are devoted to this government, and there are this channel that is so this, and the perception of undue political influence, and this what they use, what they are, all these political parties, what they, this is the freedom, and they are all the pressure there, this is the media freedom, they can do anything, and this they clamp down the problem, they, their activities on the media freedom. But this is the freedom of the media that is doing like that. But all we know that there is some kind of media polarization due to the affiliation to the various political parties. Online news content, challenges and decision. It was not possible to use one database to collect all of the content. Suppose news bank is there, we are talking about there, because ultimately what they do, they also collect the information from various sources, from various, like when Neil is showing his database that we are collecting information from 486 databases of India. These databases we are also using from this Africa. So they also, but these the reliable sources of where these news bank type of sources, or we can say Word News Digest, various these paid online news content services, they should also work on that. There should be some there should they should give they should also make a study that which kind of databases they should use for retrieving the information, because we all know that in earlier from we know the new name of BBC, Reuters. When I was in school time, I have heard how Reuters was started, how pigeons were used in the starting age. So these are the, we should, because as a librarian, when we discuss about the authenticity of a source, what things are, what we study, what is the authority. Suppose I have to subscribe some new online news content in our library. What I will study, that this online news content service is coming from which, who is the creator of this, who is the, which company's product it is, that is called the authority. And what is, suppose this news bank, anything which has started from last, who start, suppose there is news service which is started from I discussed with my fellow colleagues that they are using in their libraries. So it is very easy for me to subscribe in our library to a service which has started from last 2 years. So these are the many things, and then what are kind of things? What is the arrangement? What is the treatment? Whether suppose when we study that facts on file, there is one thing which we generally study about these things while subscribing these types of things, online resources or the reference sources. We think, is there any kind of biasness is there? Suppose when we study where the facts on file is American bias, but as far as kissing record of what events is studied, we never say that is this is. And what is the scope? What is the area scope? Whether it is Asian, suppose Asian diary. From the name, it is clear that this is covering only the Asia. And when we say this is the African diary, this belongs to the African continent also. And this media researcher need to be aware of the discrepancies that exist when using these databases, and also transparent in their communication to their wider research community about method used and any issue that arise. Dr. Sharma from Srinagar University were also using about the name of the effective. I have gone through a study that how these various online content databases study choose various databases also from American origin, of African origin. So they should be very particular about a more proactive collaboration between newsroom, archivists, database services, and researchers is needed to become an effective online news content service provider in the online news content may be better for Bible news for teaching and research in the this age of information overload, because there is because it become very difficult this in the age of this ICTs and the turbulent in the age of the way turbulent the with the speed the information is coming on the information in the information obesity age to lie which information is good and which is bad, and we don't have so much time. Every person suppose Jyoti Das as a scientist, just a minute, madam. Jyoti Das as a scientist is concerned, so he doesn't have in their research so much time that he always try to he can search databases which information which, because it is the duty of the information professionals to give correct information to the scientists, and they should this is their duty which information source is good and which information source is not good. So this is so information overload as a state in which I have defined that. Oh, this is my humble submission. This is from my side on this. So this topic of this in online news content.
Thank you so much, Jivesh sir, for your inputs, how the misinformation is going around and how the content providers should be much more responsible in terms of what they are giving to their readers and all everything. Thank you so much for your valuable inputs. Now we will be opening our question and answer section chat box for our participants. So if any of them have any queries for all of you, then we will be taking some of the questions. So I request my team to open the chat box so that we can see the questions of our participants. Yeah, the chat box is open now. So anybody have any questions for our panelist, for our keynote speaker, they can type their questions over there, and I will connect with them with the answers that you are looking for. So here we have one question. What exactly, which kind of news that blogs are providing? So
yeah, you want me to go first?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Surely.
The blogs actually, they take a topic and then kind of elaborate on that, and these blogs sometimes give you it's a very fresh, baked from the oven information that you can
Ma'am, Jive sir, anybody?
I think Munshi ma'am has clearly described it's something is coming very like fresh and this one.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's
yes.
what actual block is, and it's a block is actually it's a like very individually like something some people express their things in their own like way. That's a very individualistic thing.
Yes, at times there are actually very informative blogs, like in terms of when I was going through some of the blogs to find the tools, how to write a research article or something, then these
Exactly.
blogs are actually giving you very good information. Even in terms of, as Sarma sir said, like we for the funding and all, at that terms also we get very good information in terms of funding, like in Biotechnica blogs, I follow that.
No, you can get the information writing a blog, and you can have the information from writing a blog also. You
Yes,
can
sir.
write something and have the information from others, and you can
Yes.
share the information to others also. That's the like both way you can do.
Yeah, it's a commentary actually,
Yeah.
commentary type or discussion type of that goes on your given topic. Yeah.
Very true, madam. Very true.
So nowadays, in terms of this traveling, the video blogs are going actually very much popular.
Hmm.
Yes. So thank you very much, all of you, for taking time for our this session. I guess no more questions are coming right now. For the news bank, we have some questions. So Neil, are you there? Okay, we will get back to Neil for the questions that are there. So, okay, thank you very much. Good evening right now to all of you. It's like now evening time almost. So now we will be closing the session. This is our end section for the question and answer section. And now we will be sharing the quiz for our participants. So if any of our panelists, they want to leave, they can leave. And again, a very thankful from the Balani team for accepting our invitation and be our valuable panelists. Thank you so much. We will be contacting you in future as well for some of the more informative sessions. And yes, now we will be opening the session for the question and answers for the quiz section. So if
Thank
anybody
you.
of
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thanks, Deepa.
Thank